Welcome to another episode of the Hallelujah Gardening Guide. Today we want to talk about watering your garden. When it's hot and dry weather like we're having this summer, it is imperative, if we want to keep our garden growing, that we keep it well watered. Now there are various methods of watering, and I'm standing right here next to the most inefficient means or way of watering your garden. This is the way it was done for many years. It's called a sprinkler, and you turn on the water, and then the sprinkler sprays the water out over a certain area of your garden. The only problem, or the primary problem, with this type of watering is that it exposes the water to the air and to evaporation, and you lose a tremendous amount of the water when you spray it onto your garden. And so there are other methods that we can use that will conserve the water, prevent all this evaporation. And that's what we want to do now. We want to have Willie share with us a drip type of irrigation that I think you'll find very interesting.
Okay, well, George, I wanted to show you the soaker hoses that I bought here for the blueberries, because we've had some problems with our old irrigation system, and until I can get that replaced, I needed something that was quick and easily available. And this is something that most homeowners will be able to find without any problem at their local hardware stores. The soaker hose is made out of recycled rubber, and it has little tiny pores all through, so the water, once the pressure builds up in the hose, the water just trickles out, and if I hold this up, you can see it dripping off. And this is a great way to conserve moisture because it soaks into the ground rather than running across the surface and draining away. And you can make sure that it gets down into the roots where you really need it on these plants, especially when we're having such tremendous heat day after day out here in the garden. Now, the next step up from this is to go to a line that has some emitters in it that, instead of having pores along the entire length of the hose, just has openings where the plants are located. So let's go take a look at a couple of examples of that. So this is an example of the old system of emitters that we have in the blueberries, and it's just been here for a number of years, and it's not working quite as well as it should. Sometimes these emitters plug up and you either need to replace them or clean them out if it's a style that you can clean out. So we're in the process of getting ready to change out all of these. But this is a great system. You can bury it down into your mulch, and you put one of these emitters or a couple of emitters in the close proximity for each of your plants. So the more widely spaced your plants are, the farther apart your emitters are going to be. And you install those yourself by punching a small hole and then inserting the emitter into that hole, so you can control exactly where you want those placed. And these type of emitters are available now at some of the big box stores. They have drip irrigation systems for the homeowner. You can also find kits that have a combination of different types of emitters so that you can water your shrubs, your trees, your potted plants, and even your vegetable garden just by buying the right kit.
That's a lot more efficient than the constant drip on the hose we looked at previously.
Right, because you're only putting water around the base of your plants, and here in our blueberry bed, our plants are 5 or 6 feet apart, and any water that's being deposited in the middle of the bed where there's no plant is not really doing any benefit. In fact, it would be watering weeds and encouraging them to grow in that space. So yeah, this precision location of emitters is great when you have things that are spaced at random intervals or at very large distances.
Very interesting.
And we also have a system that has the emitters built right into the lines, but they are at a preset space of 8 inches or 12 inches. So let's go take a look at those.
That'd be great.
This is an example of a soaker hose that has an emitter that they call inline, because it's actually inside the tubing, and you can see there's a small hole there. That's actually the pore where the water drips out. And if you look at this, there are emitters every 6 inches or 8 inches on this particular line. You can get them with specific spacings, as I've said before, up 12 inches. But those regular intervals really work best when you have something like a flower bed that has a lot of flowers closely spaced, or a vegetable garden where your plants are not too far apart. Now, they also have to attach into a feeder line, and there's two components. The end of your line here has to have a plug in it so the water stops. When you cut the end of your hose off, you put a plug in the end of that hose. Now, when it's attached to the feeder line, the water's going to come out of that main feeder line and go down through your narrow drip hose where it supplies your vegetable bed. However, if you have a line that is damaged or broken and for some reason is not working properly, you can take that hole and prevent it from leaking by putting in what they call a goof plug. And it's just a small plug that has a flared tip on it, and you can take that and press it down into the hole, and it just pops right in and it stops the leak. And that way your other lines will have the proper pressure for the emitters to work. Okay, so here at this bed I've got a couple more pieces that are available as options on this type of drip system that just gives you further control. Right here is a shutoff, and that particular piece, if you just turn it, just like any valve, it'll let the water flow. If I didn't want to water this particular bed, because right now I have nothing planted, all I have to do is shut that off and I conserve the water and let it just go to the beds that actually need it. So that's a great option to have where your line's attached to your supply line. And you can see the water drips off at a really slow rate. And over here, this line here has been going for a little while, and you can see how the water drips down in contact with the soil and then spreads out, and all the plants that are in that path of that water line are going to be watered properly with a nice, slow, steady flow that they can handle.
How long do you leave that on per day? Is there a set amount of time?
It really depends on the type of plant that you're watering, but you're usually going to let it run for probably about a half an hour or so. You've got to take into consideration how many lines you have in operation and how many gallons of flow you have, how much pressure you have in the lines. There are a few technical aspects, but most any company that actually sells these offers a great deal of information to help you work that out. And I know that the online sources, they will help guide you with all the components that you need to set up your own home system if you don't buy a kit.
Can you tell by checking the soil as to the degree of moisture that it's been emitted, or if it's sufficiently?
Sure. One thing that you can do is when you have a line that's elevated a little bit, you could actually put a container underneath and catch the water in it and actually measure how much water is coming out. And get some idea that way how much is reaching each plant. But you can also take and see where this water's been running.
Right.
I can dig down here and I can see that I'm going quite a ways and I'm not reaching dry soil.
Right.
Yet if I dug down over here, it's just bone dry.
So that's an excellent, quickly you can determine whether
Right,
they're getting
right.
enough
It's
water.
very simple to determine if the plants are getting adequate water.
Right.
And how deeply it's soaking into the soil, simply by just digging down a little bit in a bare spot.
Well, that's been a lot of interesting information concerning how to water your garden in these hot, dry summer days.
That's right, and it's really important to keep that water to your plants before they start to experience shock, before they're wilting, curling up, anything like that, because all those are stress on your plant. So you want to make sure that they've got adequate water before they reach that point, or you're not going to get good, healthy vegetables from them.
Now, during this hot summer weather, I water my raised beds every day. You don't see a problem with that, daily watering?
Well, daily watering is not recommended simply because the plants get soft.
Soft?
They get lazy.
Okay.
And they don't work as hard, their roots aren't working as hard or venturing as deep in the soil to really reach the cool parts and where the moisture is more constant. So the surface obviously dries out quite a bit, and deep down, if I keep digging, eventually I'll get to moist ground here. I can go down and it's already, I can feel a little bit of moisture there.
So would every other day watering be
every other
advisable?
Day? Yeah, every other day. Your plants should, even if they wilt down a little bit during the day, they should be recovering overnight when the weather's cooler and they open their pores and they start drawing moisture through. What most plants do is they shut down during the day, and when the water stops flowing through, the evaporation that does occur causes them to wilt. But as long as they're recovering at night, they're probably still doing fairly well. If they're wilted still in the morning, there's a problem. You've gone too far.
Will they come back?
They might. They might. But you definitely would want to, that really is another issue. if you can have your irrigation running in the evening hours, then your plants are going to be drinking when everybody else is sleeping and not putting a great demand on public water supplies or wells, even for, if you have a well at home, if you're using that for your drinking water and doing laundry and cooking and everything, food preparation, taking baths, any reason like that, you're competing with the water.
Well, thank you very much for joining us for another episode of the Hallelujah Gardening Guide. Until next time, this is George and Willie saying goodbye and God bless you and happy gardening.